Joining us now from Canucks Conversation and Canucks Army is Chris Faber, and we're very pleased to announce that Chris is going to be a weekly guest here with Sekeres and Price on Wednesdays this hockey season. How we doing, buddy? You look fantastic.
Yeah, thanks. I'm actually getting married in 4 days, so
that's what I meant, Chris. For a guy who's getting married in 4 days, would have felt all the stress would hit home here, but look at you.
It's one of those days where I've woken up early and or not really too early. I've came on and jumped on with you guys here, so the whole day hasn't really hit me yet. But it seems like every day by like 9 o'clock at night, it's like, oh god, we get to do this all again tomorrow. It's I'm very much looking forward to like a fast forward button whenever that's invented, because I would love to just get to Sunday right now and get to that damn wedding.
Absolutely. Well, we wish you and your bride all the best for Sunday. We met her at the Canadiens game this year, if I'm not mistaken. We all had a good picnic there and barbecue.
Are you working Saturday night and then getting married the next day?
No, I've luckily got a couple days off before and after. I actually I get the Monday off, which is the day after. Saturday before, I'm good, and then Friday we've got Harmon filling in for me on our show.
Okay.
Yeah, basically like 3 days off, which is really something I haven't had since working in this industry. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, so there's no days off here in season, as you know, and boy, I thought Quadrelli was tough, but he gets you 3 days off, Blake. Wow. He's softening in his old age.
Yes.
Yeah. That's why you make him a groomsman, right? Then he's got to be included in the wedding stuff. So that's
well done. Right, well done. We're going to start with our Bodog Poll question today, Chris. And I know your compadre there, David, is the goalie guy on your show, but over under starts for Thatcher Demko this year. We were talking to Saravelli yesterday. He thinks the number's 55. So what do you think, over or under for 55 and a half starts for Thatcher this year?
Yeah, I'm going to bet that he gets closer to 60 than 50. So I think 55 is a good range to go with. I would take the over on 55. I think that depending on how the start of the season goes, I think you're going to see him a lot. And I think depending on how the middle of the season goes, you're going to see him a lot at the end. So I think a lot of it is depending on how this team ends up performing early on and kind of rolls into it. But we've seen Rick talk it. He's a guy who likes to have his good starter going. We know that Ian Clark kind of is the goaltender whisperer here. He's going to understand where Thatcher Demko's at. And though Casey DeSmith is certainly an upgrade on what they've had in the backup position for the last couple of years, I think once you see Demko back to full form, you're just going to want to play him, right? If he's playing well, you're probably going to want to play him, especially if he starts to get into a little bit of a groove here. So I would not be surprised to see him just get around 60-ish. Like just
there's a health gamble there too, though. So you're making a health gamble as well. You think he's durable enough that he can do that right now?
Yeah, I think he's coming in healthy at least, right? That's a very good thing for this season. But you are seeing more and more as the years go by that goalies rarely get to 60 as well. I think it will be interesting to see how it plays out. I just think this Canucks team, I mean, heck, you could see it in just the preseason games that Demko's played in. Like, they're very reliant on Thatcher Demko being a strong goaltender for this team to be successful. And that's not just by like a game-to-game basis. That's 82 games over a full season. So, yeah, I'd be surprised if he's under 50. I'll say that for sure.
Yeah. What's your confidence level in DeSmith, Chris?
Not the highest. I think as a backup, pretty high, right? I think it would be interesting. Like, it would be a very tough situation for the Canucks to see Thatcher Demko go down. I mean, then you're going to have Archer Seelaws battling with Casey DeSmith. And at that point, I wouldn't be super confident in DeSmith getting the bulk of the starts. But in the role that he's at right now as the backup, I feel pretty confident. I think he showed well in the preseason action that we saw, and we'll probably see him at some point over these last 2 games here to get a little bit of a run. But one game every 2 weeks, one game every 10 days, whatever it may be, I think there's a confidence level that's at least higher than there has been in past couple of years here anyways with the backup.
With the Canucks at 24 effectively, Ilya Mikheyev on injured reserve, there's really only one cut to be made. A lot of the cuts happened early. You were pretty dialed in with Abby from last year and a lot of the prospects coming in. You surprised nobody got a little bit of a longer run deeper into the preseason?
Yeah, I loved what Archie Baines got early on in training camp, specifically getting a chance to play with the top 9 line. And Akita Hirose probably didn't get the biggest run. Matt, that probably frustrated you a little bit. But, watching some of these guys not really get that opportunity to showcase in the home game against Edmonton was something that I was a little bit surprised with. I thought that maybe they could have rolled with, a top 6 line and a bottom 6 line and then mix in some AHL guys as you go through here. But in the end, I think after that 10-0 loss, I really think a lot changed where it was like, we can't really do half and half lineups because we're just going to get our asses kicked. So they had to roll out here with a little bit of a better lineup, and wasn't really a surprise to me to see a very NHL lineup against the Oilers over the weekend. And I think we'll expect to see similar things here now that we've seen some cuts, and not going to also forget that AHL training camp starts today out in Chilliwack for the Abbotsford Canucks as well. So they're already doing a training camp. I don't expect to see any of those guys in the lineup tonight for the Vancouver Canucks in Abbotsford.
Vasily Podkolzin, Chris, where are you on him? And is the word bust now appropriate for him?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. 10th overall pick. You're not going to get one of the superstars, obviously, out of this guy. But to me, the development has been extremely mishandled over the past 4 years, and I don't think it's the Vancouver Canucks' fault. I think a lot of that goes on Ska. This is a guy who came in at 18 and 19 years old and was playing 6, 7, 8, 9 minutes a game in the KHL, not being trusted with anything on the special teams units. And then when he did get time on the special teams units, he looked great in the KHL. And those 2 years, basically, you can throw away for development. You're not doing much on ice development. And I think that's starting to come to fruition now in the NHL, where Rick Tockett's saying, okay, he doesn't have the thinking the game exactly as fast as we would like to see. Man, all that comes when you're 18, 19, 20 years old and you're getting high minutes in a lower league that isn't the NHL. You develop that hockey sense. You're able to, kind of grow your game in a certain way that you find.
You're in all the situations. You by virtue of just living those situations, you get that wisdom, right?
Exactly. And I think that was the unfortunate thing. I remember waking up at 3 a.m. to watch Podkolzin play with Scott, and he gets 4 minutes. And I'm like, what's he gaining from that at all? What's the team gaining from that at all? So that whole situation was tough. His rookie season, you could say, hey, he came in and developed there. He looked well. He fit in. He scored 14 goals. And then last season kind of takes a step back. I just think that he needs to find a role. And the easiest spot for him to find a role is the Abbotsford Canucks, because he's going to go there. He is head and shoulders above everybody else on that Abbotsford Canucks roster, right? Whether it's management, coaches, players, the way they're all going to be looking at Vasily Podkolzin is above everybody else there. He is the first-round pick who's not only a high pick, but now is 22 years old. So he's not the 18-year-old kid who's coming in or the 19-year-old. He's now 22. He's had some NHL games. He's scored at the NHL level. They're going to look at him to do everything. He now officially has a role. And I think that's a difficult thing in the NHL is certain weeks his role has been top 6 with JT Miller. Certain weeks he's been a healthy scratch. And that's extremely tough for confidence. I know getting sent down to the AHL can't help your confidence either. But when you're riding a high of I'm playing with JT, I'm in the top 6. And then 3 days later, nope, now you're not even playing. That's got to be tough on the confidence to just bounce up and down like a roller coaster so much. So I think just steadying the base here, the final year of his entry-level contract, I'm not worried about Vasily Podkolzin figuring it out. I think he's going to be excellent for the Abbotsford Canucks fans out there. They're going to really enjoy watching him do really everything for that forward group out there in Abbotsford. And yeah, I don't think we're even close to the point of calling him a bust just yet. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And man, I would love to see him get a run, play a little bit of center, do some things out there in Abbotsford that you might.
I've been calling for that for years. Is it too much to ask for Ratsu and Podkolzin to be team points leaders on the Abbotsford Canucks? Is that too much to ask?
Well, Dries is there with all that.
I don't mean I don't mean tippy top, but top 4.
What you're saying.
In the collective.
Yeah, I think Ratsu, you'd expect him to be I'd expect top 5 in points out there in Abbotsford this year. I think he showed really well at Youngstars. I think he has done some off-season improvements that you're going to see pretty much from the immediate drop of the puck out there in Abbotsford. So I'm excited to see what Ratsu looks like. I would say Podkolzin is a guy that probably it might shock me. And you brought up Sheldon Dries there, Matt. He's a guy who could just put up more points in the AHL than a Vasily Podkolzin. But I think night-to-night impact, you're expecting the two-way game from Vasily Podkolzin. You're expecting him to put up a lot of points. You want to see him grow his confidence in his shot, his playmaking, and all these things. But yeah, Linus Karlsson's going to score a lot. He is going to put up a lot of points. Sheldon Dries is going to put up a lot of points. You are going to see some guys out there that are sort of at that level of just too good of scores in the AHL, but can't figure out a role in the NHL. Yeah. I think that's not where you want Podkolzin to fall. You want him to fall into the spot of just developing, just growing his game, and not necessarily needing to be a top scorer, but I think he'll be up there. I think you can expect Ratsu and Podkolzin to be, top 5, depending on when they get called up, because I think both will get NHL opportunities this year. But I think both of them should be around the top 5 of scoring for Abbotsford when the time they get that call-up is.
Höglander, and they seem hesitant to want to put him on a line with Suter and Garland, too small. That means he's probably going to be a fourth liner. Are you okay with that? Is that good enough real estate for Höglander and gives him a chance to contribute and develop with the NHL club?
Yeah, and I think it could be period by period. You might see him go up and play some top 6 minutes, right? I think he's a guy that Rick Tocchet, the more Tocchet sees of Höglander in game, he's going to say, oh, like, I can work with this. I can work with this kid who works his ass off. You know, isn't afraid to throw an elbow in the corner. Though he's short, he can knock guys over with that little, fire hydrant frame that he's got on him. And watching Höglander be able to work, if he's able to really buy in to what Rick Tocchet is selling, I think there's a match that's going to be extremely beneficial for Höglander and the way that he's going to grow as an NHL player. Fourth line role, not exactly what you would like to see, especially some of the flashes we've seen from Nils Höglander, but I think that's the reason he's on the fourth line is it's only been flashes. It hasn't been a consistent thing, aside from maybe that rookie season when he really found some chemistry with Tanner Pearson and Bo Horvat. Nils Höglander hasn't been able to do it on a night-to-night basis. I still think there's some decision-making in his own zone that are going to hurt him. And I think a fourth line role won't put so much pressure on him to move the puck out. And I also like the fact that he would be the skill guy on a line. I like when he is the guy who kind of has that confidence from his line mates to do something, to create, whether it be playmaking or scoring goals or shooting the puck. I like the other two guys on the line looking at him being like, no, you shoot it. Like on a 2-on-1, you are shooting it. And I like that being put on Höglander because when he's in a top 6 line, he's got JT Miller on his side. He's got Elias Pettersson with him. He's kind of put himself in this own box to just be a guy to set up the other line mates. It's like, no, man, you got some skill. Pull that crazy lacrosse move that you did. Like, do some stuff like that. Build some confidence. So I think in a fourth line role, as long as he's able to clean up kind of the weakest point of his game, which to me is decision-making right around his own blue line, it doesn't hurt to just get the puck out. Like, just
I'm 100% with you, Faber. If he cleans up the defensive detail, you watch him move his way up this lineup in season and perhaps even, as you say, in game. Cole McWard, is he ready for this smoke?
Yeah, I don't think there's many NHL teams that are saying, give me that guy as my 1RD, but this committee thing that they're going to run here, I still don't know. I know that Rick Tocchet mentioned we're going to go by committee. I don't buy it. I don't think we're going to see as much as people are maybe buying into just the quote that Rick Tocchet talked about with committee. I think he's going to play with Cole McWard like 80 to 90% of his shifts at 5-on-5. I think Quinn Hughes will get an opportunity to be with Filip Hronek late in games. We saw it in the preseason game against Edmonton. After every penalty kill, it was Hughes and Hronek out there together. But aside from that, there was one offensive zone faceoff where Tyler Myers was out there with Quinn Hughes in that game. And this is the defense core that's what it's going to look like on opening night, it feels like, unless there's a couple changes over the final 2 preseason games. I mean, anybody can play with Quinn Hughes, and we're really seeing it now with the kid who came out of the NCAA last year and doesn't have more than 10 games of experience in the NHL. And I think there's a lot to like with Cole McWard. I think he's got the size. I like the way he moves the puck. The one thing I have really liked about McWard and Hughes is McWard's very good at going stick to stick, tape to tape with Quinn Hughes. Like, he doesn't have a lot of missed passes. He's very accurate with his passes. It's just, man, you mentioned it, like the smoke's coming here pretty quick when you're the top pairing guy and you're actually going up against top NHL lines consistently in the NHL, man. Like, when the regular season gets going here, it's going to be something that is going to shock Cole McWard a little bit. But what other options do they have, right?
I mean, a Ryan Stanton-like trade is possible, but they'd have to put a bunch of guys on waivers to make room for that said player. So there's not a lot of options here.
Ryan Stanton-like trade,
right? Yeah.
Wow, are you digging into the crates here of Canucks history? Remember Ryan Stanton? Remember how we were drunk on Stanton for a few games?
He had a nice season.
He stepped in and
one
played
nice
pretty
season.
well. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Jack Rathbone. Chris was 12 years old when that happened, right?
He was not.
He was contributing to our show. Now he's a regular on our show. Jack Rathbone is the best case scenario. I see talk about trade, and I guess he would have some value as a strictly, minor league trade where you don't have to get him through waivers yourself. But look, everyone just had a crack at this guy, and 31 teams said no. Is the best case scenario here that he just has a terrific year in the AHL? And we were looking at how few games he's actually played, Chris, over the last 4 years, that he just has a bounce back, good year in the AHL, and that you're able to move him at the deadline for something.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's going to really change much in the value, to be honest. Like, even if he is one of the top scoring guys in the AHL, not going to really move the needle for a lot of teams to go out and make a trade for him and specifically give up something of value. With Rathbone, I think it's been a similar situation for the past basically year and a half of, hey, if it's not going to work out in Vancouver, let's talk with other teams and see who else has not necessarily a problem, because I don't think Jack Rathbone's a problem. The problem is more for the player and the situation that they're in. So I think you'll see, I don't know, honestly, you could see it in the next 2 weeks. You could see it maybe 3 months from now, but some other team's going to have a guy in a similar spot who's maybe a center or maybe a winger even. Like you'd like to add the center, but it may end up just being a winger who is at the same age and is in the same situation. This happens to a lot of guys in the NHL around the league, and you'll start to see, point totals from the AHL whenever that trade comes down the road. But for now, it's just going to be too difficult for him to find any minutes in Vancouver due to the fact of some of the other, I guess, left shot defensemen who are in the lineup, and he hasn't been able to change his game that much, unfortunately. I think his defensive game has improved. I also think, just walking by him in the halls and seeing him around the city, he's put on some weight. Like, he has put on a lot of muscle. And from the guys that I talked to about their offseason workouts, like, Rathbone's a beast in the gym from what I hear. And I know he's worked really hard this year to improve that so that he has more strength. But yeah, I think it's going to end up being something over the next, like I said, could be 2 weeks, could be 3 months. I think we'll see a change of scenery, but it's going to be a guy who's in a similar spot. And I like that. If they give him an opportunity to go play somewhere else, I hope the best for him. He's a great kid, awesome to deal with. Probably one of my favorites I've ever dealt with in the Canucks organization. And I hope that the guy coming in here is really hungry. Right. And it feels like that role, he has to kind of steal it from somebody else at that point.
And of course, we all remember the kid spent an extra year back home helping out with his brother who has special needs. Lastly, Chris, and we're going to end every interview with you on Wednesdays with this. Who is your Vancouver Canucks prospect of the week, my man?
Yeah, we're actually heading over to the OHL. There was actually a lot of options this week. We had a beautiful saucer pass from Lucas Forsell in the SHL. Jonathan Lekaramaki scored again. We had a 4-point night from a right shot defenseman, Hunter Brustevich. But I'm going to go with Kirill Kudryavtsev. And I also picked the hardest name to pronounce for my first one here with you guys. But Kirill Kudryavtsev had a goal and 3 assists over the weekend. He's with the Sioux Greyhounds in the OHL. This kid impressed us at Young Stars. You guys saw him out there. He's a player who can kind of do a little bit of everything. And I think the fact that he's over here and came from Russia to jump into the OHL and learn the North American game, also a Dan Milstein client, so he's going to get all the opportunities in the world. But he had a great weekend, 1 goal and 3 assists as Sioux just kicked the crap out of the teams that they played in the OHL opening weekend. And the Greyhounds are looking very good. From the people I talked to out in the OHL, they're saying the Greyhounds, they've found it. After not making the playoffs last year, they made some big changes, had some high draft picks. They are a very exciting team. And Kudryavtsev is PP1 playing with Andrew Gibson, who was a second-round pick in last year's draft, I believe. A very big right shot defenseman who makes a lot of sense for that pairing. So I'm going with Kudryavtsev this week with 1 goal, 3 assists in 2 games of the OHL.
I lied. One more question. What will be the big "Everybody on the Dance Floor" song at the Faber wedding on Sunday? What are you going?
Or will it just be you singing karaoke? Which will be the most likely scenario?
Yeah, I've been banned off of karaoke. Also, my best karaoke song, "Hero" by Enrique, has been banned from the wedding. That's unfortunate. But I think
I enjoyed your Creed. Your Creed karaoke was decent.
Was that higher?
Yeah, that was higher. That was we'll see if I'm going to make a push for Creed. Yeah.
Shout out to the cameraman who took that too.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Errors and omissions, by the way, September 2013. Ryan Stanton was a waiver claim. Wasn't a trade.
Yeah. Chris, have a great wedding. All right, buddy. I hope everybody enjoys themselves, and we'll catch up next Wednesday, which is opening night for the Canucks and Oilers.
Absolutely. Thanks. We got a bunch of Maritimers coming in, so you can't have a bad wedding with a bunch of them.
That's true.
Let's go there.
Let's go there.
This Sekeres and Price clip brought to you by Applewood Auto Group. And remember,
it's all good at Applewood.